Another edition for the 49ers on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. It is a punter, and it might be a surprise to some because Thomas Morstead is no longer the team's punter. It is now going to be Corliss Waitman, past 2 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're going to get into the numbers. This looks like an upgrade. It is very, very possible that Thomas Morstead is retiring, by the way. There had been some rumors about that earlier in the season. And Thomas Morstead, when he went to the Superdome in New Orleans, remember he had punted for so long for the New Orleans Saints. I mean, Thomas Morstead played for the Saints team that won the Super Bowl back in 2009. He was actually the kicker of the very famous onside kick that Sean Payton called that the Saints recovered. He kicked it, punted against the 49ers in 2011 at Candlestick in the divisional round playoff game. There was some talk that was going to be Thomas Morstead's final time playing at the Louisiana Superdome. So anyway, 49ers move to the new punter, Corliss Waitman. Their kicking battery is now set for the 2026 season. The holder, or the long snapper, John Weeks, is back. He has already posted on social media about this. We can take a look at that in a little bit. The holder is now going to be Corliss Waitman. He was the holder for Chris Boswell, really good kicker in Pittsburgh over the past 2 years. And of course, the 49ers have also re-signed Eddie Pinheiro, the kicker. One of the challenges is going to be ensuring that Eddie Pinheiro has it all set up so he can go 28 of 29, 96.6% on field goals again, which actually led the NFL in 2025. But in the case of Corliss Waitman, I have some quick numbers to compare him to Thomas Morstead from last season. And Waitman actually performs very, very favorably in comparison. So these are ranks. And at the very top, you've got the 3 ranks for Corliss Waitman. At the bottom, you've got the 3 ranks for Thomas Morstead. Punts inside the 20-yard line, 35 punts inside the 20 for Corliss Waitman. That is number 3 in the NFL. Oops, I have Thomas Morstead's number is incorrect. I've got to fix that on Twitter here in a second. But Thomas Morstead actually ranked in the 20s there. I actually copied and pasted, and I forgot to replace that number. So from the 20s up to number 3, that is really good here at that first number. Yards per return. So you want this to be lower. Opponents only averaged 7 yards per return against Corliss Waitman's punts, and they averaged 12.7 yards per return against Thomas Morstead's punts. So number 5 for Corliss Waitman, number 25 for Thomas Morstead. And then hang time, number 5 for Waitman, number 21 for Thomas Morstead. And I think that's very correlated to the yards per return off of both of their punts. I delve into it a little bit further right here. This is what really seems like an upgrade. Corliss Waitman, 30 years old, versus Thomas Morstead, who's now 40 years old. The hang time, as you would expect with a stronger, younger leg for Corliss Waitman, is much better. 4.52 seconds in 2025, ranked number 5 in the NFL for Thomas Morstead. 4.14 seconds, ranked number 26 in the NFL. And I think probably, as I wrote here, a major contributing factor to the fact that the returns against Waitman's punts were on average taken back for much shorter returns than off of Morstead, 7 versus 12.7 yards. So on paper, this definitely looks like a 49ers upgrade. Remember, they improved their special teams unit from number 32, dead last in 2024, to number 2 behind only the Seattle Seahawks in 2025. And the main part of that improvement was thanks to Eddie Pinheiro, who's the 49ers kicker. He made 28 of 29 kicks. But again, you have to circle back to the fact that the entire kicking battery for the 49ers was changed. So it wasn't just Pinheiro that came in to replace Jake Moody. The holder, John Weeks, the long snapper, John Weeks, replaced the long snapper, Tabor Pepper, and the holder this past season was Thomas Morstead. He replaced Mitch Wishnowsky, or by the end of 2024, as Pat O'Donnell, since Mitch Wishnowsky was hurt. Well, now replacing Thomas Morstead, the 49ers are going to have yet another new punter, Corliss Waitman. And this is a picture of Waitman holding for Chris Boswell, one of the great kickers of all time, a very, very good kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm sure, again, Brant Boyer, the 49ers special teams coordinator, who's been at the center of this big 49ers special teams turnaround. He was hired last year. He has taken all of this into account before he recommends whom the 49ers should sign. And if Thomas Morstead is indeed retiring, it's been a fantastic career for him. And the 49ers' new punter now is going to be Corliss Waitman there holding for Chris Boswell. So we can get more into this. I want to call to your attention that I have the camera zoomed out a little bit further this time. You guys can probably guess why. Maybe you can't, but normally you just see the Frank Gore jersey and you just see a tiny bit of the jersey here over my left shoulder. The reason that we're further zoomed out is because we're talking about the signing of a punter, and that is the jersey of one of the most famous punters of all time, Shane Lechler. That's a Raiders jersey. Shane Lechler, the number 9, it's signed, but Shane Lechler punted in the league for 18 years. Very decorated, all kinds of awards. He's in the contention to be considered one of the greatest punters of all time. He's got his jersey up there, and we can say Shane Lechler's jersey is part of this show about Corliss Waitman, the 49ers' new punter. Now, I had to do a lot of research. I'm not going to pretend to be a punting expert. This is one of the things that I can't just wing. So Mike sent me the news a few minutes ago, and I started doing my research on Corliss Waitman. And one, cool piece that I have about his actual football career, and then I'm going to have some personal life stuff for Corliss Waitman, which is neat as well. But his football career, he was the punter for the Broncos in one of the ugliest games that we had ever watched. And that was the 49ers against Denver on Sunday Night Football in 2022. This was Brock Purdy's rookie season, but it was actually Jimmy Garoppolo's first start of the year. Trey Lance began that season, but by the way, Trey Lance just re-signed with the Chargers, and the contract was 1 year worth up to $6.5 million for Lance. That contract for Trey Lance ensures that he's going to be playing with Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh this year. Those are going to be two of his coaches on that staff. So 49ers passed two different eras combines. McDaniel was there when they drafted Lance, and obviously Harbaugh was there before. Lance was already with Harbaugh last year. Now he's going to get to play under offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel and head coach Jim Harbaugh, $6.5 million. But I go back to 2022. In that season, Trey Lance started the first two games, got hurt in the second game. Jimmy Garoppolo relieved him. Garoppolo played really, really well, and they beat the Seattle Seahawks in week 2. Then the 49ers went to Denver, where Jimmy Garoppolo took over as the starting quarterback, and obviously there was still some rust in that case because Denver had a really good defense, but the 49ers managed only 10 points. That was the game where Garoppolo had that safety where he stepped out of the back of the end zone, and if it wasn't a safety, it was going to be a pick six. It was a really, really ugly game and an ugly play. Anyway, Corliss Waitman was the punter for the Broncos in that game, and he ended up punting 10 times in that game. And he downed the 49ers inside their 20 6 times in that game. The Broncos, with Russell Wilson at quarterback, ended up beating the 49ers 11-10. And very arguably, the MVP of that game was the guy up on your screen, Corliss Waitman, who is the new punter for the 49ers. So that's one time that he intersected with San Francisco over the course of his NFL career. Now we go to the personal life of Corliss Waitman. He was born in Belgium. This is a really cool story. He was born in a city called Gent, Belgium, and I've actually been, and it's a really neat spot. It's probably a 45-minute train ride outside of Brussels, which obviously is the biggest city in Belgium. We could take a look at it on the map in a second. But his father, Jose Waitman, was a professional basketball player and was playing in Belgium when Corliss was born. The family moved to the Netherlands, where Corliss spent his childhood. When he was 15, he moved to the United States to join his father. Corliss Waitman switched from playing soccer to football in high school. And of course, his move to football meant that he became a punter. The 49ers kicker, Eddie Pinheiro, for whom Corliss Waitman is going to be holding, started as a soccer player. His dad is a professional soccer player, and then became a kicker when he was discovered out on a high school football field by college football recruiters. Eddie Pinheiro, I mean, that story's wild, and we gave it a week ago when the 49ers actually re-signed Eddie Pinheiro to a 4-year deal worth about $20 million. I think maybe exactly $20 million. 4.25 million per year for Eddie Pinheiro. So he went from soccer to kicker, and Corliss Waitman went from soccer to punter, and those are the 49ers' two key specialists coming up with John Weeks and his Instagram post. I could put that up on the screen here. The long snapper of the 49ers excited about this latest news. Here you go. Let's take a look at what John Weeks has to say. The 49ers' 40-year-old long snapper has been in the game for a while. Weeks played his entire career before San Francisco with the Houston Texans. Now's with the 49ers, and this is what he posted up on social media. Welcome. Let's get to work. Says hello to Corliss Waitman. The news originally from Tom Pelissero. So that is the 49ers' new punter. Now, we could talk about Gent, Belgium. Why don't we go to the Google Maps, open this up on the screen, and find this for you guys. All right, here we go. So this is where Corliss Waitman was born. This is where his dad was playing basketball, professional basketball, at the time of his birth. You can get an idea of where it is. It's in between Brussels right here in Belgium and this famous city called Bruges. Ghent, right in the middle, is a college town in Belgium. And it's a really neat college town. I still remember visiting it. It's maybe been close to 10 years at this point, but we got the satellite view. You could see just like a European town it's got all the little small streets and a cool little old town. And they've got canals. It's a port city. So I think that you actually get some ship traffic that's able to make it into Ghent. Yeah, through here. Look, they've got a deep shipping channel. They got one of these, by the way. I'm sure we got people watching in the 906 in Sacramento. They've got a deep ship channel that connects. It's artificially installed from the San Francisco Bay that goes all the way to Sacramento. Also one that goes to Stockton. So Sacramento and Stockton are both inland San Joaquin Central Valley cities that have shipping ports like that can connect to the Pacific Ocean because of the deep ship channel. So Corliss Waitman is from a city that also has a deep ship channel that starts here, and you could follow it in. Look at that. Look at this piece of construction. You could follow it all the way in. Oops, I just zoomed out. That's not good. We got to go back. It followed all the way into Ghent, Belgium. That was a misclick on my part. Here we go. Ghent, Belgium, the deep ship channel ends in there. That's what Ghent looks like in the middle. That is the hometown of the new 49ers punter, Corliss Waitman. All right, I hope that you guys enjoyed the little geography lesson there, and I hope you enjoyed the little punting lesson there. 49ers have an upgrade at that punter position. They do get a little bit younger, and I do wonder if this is it for Thomas Morstead. Congratulations on a spectacular NFL career. And he was around for a while. I think not quite 18 years. I think it was, 17 for Thomas Morstead? His first year was 2009, and if this was the last one in 2025, then the career almost as long as the one for Shane Lechler, whose jersey is right behind us. But again, Morstead, he was absolutely everywhere, from that Super Bowl in 2009 to the 49ers Saints epic at Candlestick Park in 2011 with Vernon Davis clinching it with the catch three. Thomas Morstead was in the background of George Kittle's WrestleMania catch and run in New Orleans in 2019. You can see Morstead standing on top of the Saints bench in the Superdome to get a better look. He's there in his number 9 jersey. And then, of course, he joined the 49ers for the very end of it. Came over after spending some time with Brant Boyer with New York Jets. So he was a big part of the 49ers special teams turnaround. And If that, we don't see Thomas Morstead again in the NFL, we could say that he was a good 49er, regardless of how things shake out for him moving forward, because the 2025 season was when the 49ers did right the ship on special teams. Not a small feat to go from dead last, number 32, to number 2 when it came to special teams efficiency. But it also, the fact, and I got to make that one quick change. I got to make that one edit to my tweet. So I'm going to go ahead and do it right now, since I had that one mistake in some of the stats for Thomas Morstead. I'm going to change it as we speak. I have to look up the correct stats, though, so I give it to you guys without an error this time. Punts inside the 20-yard line, Thomas Morstead ranked number 21. Yeah, so we have to change that from number 3 to number 21. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this up onto the screen so we can take a look back at the stats, because there's an overarching truth about the 49ers special teams unit and their big turnaround that I think is actually good news for San Francisco heading into 2025, if you're going to talk about the chances of continuing that turnaround, sustaining the success that they had last year. So here you could see Waitman versus Thomas Morstead. You could see that I've made the change. Punts inside the 20, number 3 for Waitman. For Morstead, number 21. Obviously, Corliss Waitman much better across the board in these key punting metrics. But the 49ers special teams did improve from number 32, dead last, number 2 in the league. And you say, well, how do they do that if Thomas Morstead wasn't scoring all that well as a punter? Well, most of the 49ers' big improvement in 2025 came on the heels of, pun intended, Eddie Pinheiro. It was a kicker-driven surge for the 49ers. Since Eddie went 28 of 29, which is excellent on field goals, 96.6% to lead the league. Now he's number 2 all time, by the way, behind only Cameron Dicker of the Chargers. But since Eddie did that, it accounted for a massive uptick in 49ers special teams efficiency versus what they had managed the season before, with Jake Moody as their kicker. And Jake Moody was also hurt that year, so there was a stretch where they had to go to Anders Carlson. And I think Anders did okay for the 49ers. Didn't they get the 3rd kicker last year as well? 2024 is what I mean by last year. I mean, it was a mess. Everybody got hurt in 2024, including the kicker, including the punter. It was absolutely brutal for the 49ers. But the bottom line is they ranked last in special teams efficiency. They got up to number 2 behind only Seattle this past year. And most of it was because the kicking efficiency was better, which the punter, Thomas Morstead, was part of as the holder. There's a reason why they replaced everybody. Wishnowsky and Tabor Pepper were also gone after 2024. But if you're talking about the 49ers maintaining their number 2 special teams rank heading into 2026, there's meat on the bone here at punter. Again, Thomas Morstead did not hit a lot inside the 20-yard line. The yards per return against Thomas Morstead, number 25 in the league, they were high, and his hang time ranked number 21. Like the numbers for Morstead were not great, and Corliss Waitman ranked in the top 5 across those 3 metrics. And I think the 49ers have raised both their ceiling and their floor at punter by getting younger at that position. So, I mean, the numbers are stark. And I think that if you really want to tie this to physical ability, I know that some of the return stats, it's really, really difficult to disassociate between the punter and the return unit. That's going to be much more complex of an evaluation than just looking at one player. Hang time is hang time, though. And hang time is a good thing as a punter because it gives your coverage unit more time to get there to converge on the returner. And Corliss Waitman is at 4.52 seconds. That was number 5 in the entire NFL in hang time in 2025. And this is where you would expect Morstead to be worse, down at number 26. So that's a big, big advantage for Corliss Waitman over Thomas Morstead. And I do think that has to be correlated to the return yardage. 7-yard returns on average against Corliss Waitman, 12.7 against Thomas Morstead. So I actually think that the 49ers special teams has room to improve, and this potential move can do it for San Francisco. So why don't we get Corliss Waitman on the 49ers roster officially. Why don't we slot this in to see exactly where he fits? The 2026 49ers roster. I've got to get this open. It is on a back page right now. The 90-man depth chart is actually what I was looking for. All right, we've got it ready for you right here. We're going to highlight Corliss Waitman in teal to be a free agent addition to the 49ers. We go down here. You can see the punter was still open for San Francisco. No longer. Corliss Waitman's name goes in there, and he is going to get that teal highlight as a free agent who has come into the 49ers. So John Weeks, Eddie Pinheiro, Corliss Waitman. San Francisco now has all three specialist spots filled. I know that the return spot is just a placeholder right now. That's Junior Bergen. He is on the team. I would think that they still try to upgrade that, but that's going to be either a receiver or a defensive back, somebody who's already playing offense or defense for San Francisco as well. Dedicated return guy who can't play on offense or defense. It's tough to carry that on the 53-man roster. Corliss Waitman marks the 70th player to join the 49ers 90-man roster. So they have 20 spots left to fill with 6 draft picks. And those of you who were around this morning know the salary cap news. If you don't know the salary cap news, then I'm going to illustrate it for you right now, but we've got to go to the actual 49ers salary cap sheet to get that done. So here we go with the 49ers salary cap sheet. As soon as I open this, some of you who haven't been around in a while might be surprised to see that the 49ers have $28.4 million in salary cap space, nearly $30 million all of a sudden. Well, that's because Nick Bosa's contract has been restructured. Bosa's cap hit down to $22.99 million. It had been over $41 million. No pay raise or pay cut for Nick Bosa, just money reallocated for Nick Bosa. That was a standard restructure that we did anticipate. We can remove Bryce Huff from this list for San Francisco, and now we can add Corliss Waitman to it at the punter spot. I already put him in there. Yeah, I put him there before we joined live. $1.4 million salary cap hit for Corliss Waitman, which has the 49ers, I think, at around $28.4 million in salary cap space. We're waiting for some more contracts to come out, some details to come out. In fact, I could check right now because this is always interesting stuff. Like, I want to know the numbers on the Mike Evans deal. And that hadn't been released yet when I checked this morning. And it looks like it still isn't available. So as soon as we have Mike Evans, Luke Gifford signed with the 49ers. Mike points out that was a big re-signing yesterday. Luke Gifford was a special teams Pro Bowler. That is, moves like that, retaining Luke Gifford, retaining Garrett Wallow, retaining the guys that could be good on special teams. Patrick Taylor Jr., even though he didn't play last year, can be a good special teams player for the 49ers at that running back position. But retaining those players ensures that you keep the special teams floor high. And here with the punter, Corliss Waitman, you probably also raise the special teams ceiling for the 49ers, which is important because they don't get to where they got last year without a solid special teams unit. The offense was so beaten up. The defense was so beaten up. You had major struggles at different points on both of those sides of the ball. Special teams was a winning difference for sure for the 49ers. It's wild to say that, given how bad special teams had generally been throughout the Kyle Shanahan era. But now they're really investing in it. Now they're focusing on it. And Brant Boyer, the special teams coordinator, was the biggest acquisition in that regard. But the new battery of kickers and punters has also helped big time for the 49ers. We'll see what the Waitman number is, but they're paying non-zero money, non-minimum money to Eddie Pinheiro. They're paying non-minimum money to John Weeks, and it's not going to be minimum money given the success of Corliss Waitman in this NFL to this new punter. All right, I'm going to answer some questions. Anything about the punting position, go for it. I mean, again, we're on Highway 101 now as a channel. That means over 101,000 subscribers. We're growing meteorically. If you like the best 49ers coverage there is, you want to join Highway 101, hit that subscribe button. I don't think that there is another channel out there giving you an in-depth scouting report and explanation of the signing of a punter. But that is what the 49ers have done today. Eric Gomes says that Eddie Pinheiro is the new Robbie Gould. Solid. Well, more than solid. I mean, he's number 2 all time in field goal percentage, 28 of 29. That's really solid. His only miss was from 64 off the crossbar. That was some crazy stuff. Thank you, Natasha. I appreciate you too. Any updates on JJ, Joey Bosa, Debo? No, look out for Joey. I think that's the likeliest of that trio to sign with the 49ers. JJ, I'm working on something on that front, so I'll share it with you once it is ready to go. Luke Farrell is still on the football team. He's under contract still. Those of you asking about him. I don't know if he's going to make it all the way to the 2026 season, but he currently is on the team and under contract for this year. You still remember when this channel had only 20,000 subs? Good times. From Interstate 20 to Highway 101. Here we are. 101 is one of the iconic highways in the world, I would say. You know that the most iconic highway in the world, and this is measured by how often they steal the highway signs, is Highway 1, PCH, Pacific Coast Highway. A Highway 1 sign, I believe, now on the black market, don't ask me how I know this, is worth over $1,200. And maybe even more. This was a few years ago. So Highway 1, PCH, don't steal one of those signs. It'd be grand theft. It'd be worth over $1,000. But Highway 1, iconic. But Highway 101, also iconic. And that's where we are right now with those subscribers. Today, did something fun. Let me show you guys. I've got to get it here off of my phone, but we're going to send it to you here in just a second. All right, the airdrop is commencing. The video is here. So we're in Nashville, right? It's the off season. And we happen to drive by the new Tennessee Titans Stadium, which is currently under construction. And you could see the old stadium and you could see the new stadium here in this video because they're right next to each other. Let me remove this. All right, so the hotel at the end, they must feel like the luckiest hotel in the world. I'm going to pause the video. At left is the old Titan Stadium. They're still going to play there for one more season. And then as we roll this, that's the new stadium right here. It kind of looks like an office building. And then that's some kind of La Quinta Inn that's just randomly next to this brand new NFL stadium. And I'm serious, those guys must be over the moon. I mean, those guys are going to be able to rent those rooms out for quite the rates when the Titans do start playing there in the 2027 season. I'm glad that somebody recognizes the work that we're putting in. I gave you 25 minutes or so about the punting position. Mike and I were actually debating, do we talk about Jauan Jennings? Do we just talk about the punter for 2 minutes and then talk about Jauan Jennings? And no, we said we're going to talk about the punter. We got to do a show about the punter because we care about the whole football team. We want to give you guys the most in-depth 49ers coverage there is, and that was the point of this show. Have I talked to Saleh or ran into him? Not here in Nashville quite yet, but I did run into him in Indianapolis and talk to him about Nashville. That was at the NFL Scouting Combine. Highway signs, black markets are no joke. Yeah, it's intense. It really is. I mean, I can't confirm or deny that I've bought a stolen highway sign before. I'm not going to admit to a crime on the show, but I can say that I am slightly familiar with the market. And I was very surprised with how much these highway signs go for. However, if somebody wants to send me a Highway 101 sign, feel free to. You just got to find my email address. It's up on my X page. And You know, we could put a Highway 101 sign, like a nice used rustic Highway 101 sign. If he can get here while we're still at 101,000 subscribers, that'd be really cool. You'd become a longtime friend of the channel. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. 49ers have a new punter, Corliss Waitman. We did 30 minutes on the punter. It's one of the biggest accomplishments in the history of this YouTube channel. Why don't you guys subscribe right now, because you just got half an hour on the 49ers upgrade at the punter position.